Please like and share this message with others. It is important because we are almost at the time of the end. Awaken those who are still sleeping and let them know of what God is doing with us. Comment, I want to know what you think. I want to hear your response to this message that you're hearing from the Light of Zion. Welcome everyone to the Light of Zion. The Light of Zion is our God's Word. Yahuwah's Word is a lamp for our feet and a light for the road that we travel. Shine your light, O Yahuwah. Let it lead us to your holy mountains. Shine your light, O Yahuwah. Let it lead us back to Zion. Shine your light and let it guide us on our journey back to you. Shine your light, for it is good for me. And with that, I say, welcome to the Light of Zion. Greetings to you once again. It is my pleasure to come to you from the light, with a message from the Light of Zion. I know it has been a while, but I'm bouncing back, and our God continued to shine His light upon us. He continued to shine His light to show us the way we should go, the way we should walk, the way to follow until we arrive back at Zion. Yes, the direction to go until we are united with our God back in Zion. So it is my pleasure to once again welcome you to the Light of Zion. I know you are being blessed, and I know that this message that you are hearing from the Light of Zion is getting to, is ministering to you. Yes, because our God said that we will hear His word behind us, telling us this is the way. Walk in it in your people. Walk in it, your people. So you don't depart to the left or to the right, but He will show us the way to walk ahead so that we can follow it until we return back to Zion to be with our God. Yes, this message is for the descendants of Israel, the lost sheep of the house of Israel. For those who will listen and those who will stand on the crossroad and ask the question, where is the road of long ago? Where is the road leading us back to our homeland, Zion? So those who will ask this question and listen and pay attention and follow the Light of Zion, yes, those ones will be shown the way to return back to our God at the appointed time. And I earnestly hope that you are one of those searching and those following the Light of Zion until our leader returns to gather back the chosen ones of Israel. So today I'm coming to you with another message, and this is titled, Israel Descendants, Where Are We on the crossroad? Yes, where are we on the crossroad? For we have been on a journey. We have traveled far, and we have been scattered among the nations by our God because of our error. Where are we at the crossroad of what our God has said that He's doing with us? Yes, where are we on the time stream? Because our God has an appointed time in what He's doing with us. He has an appointed time that He has set concerning us. Even how long we are to stay among the nations, for we will not stay among the nations forever. But there is a time limit when we are to do what? To return back, seek to return back to our God. So where are we at the crossroad of what our God is doing? Well, follow along as I bring out, discuss these scriptures, what is written with you. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 46, verse 10, it is written, "From the beginning I foretell the outcome, and from long ago the things that have not yet been done. I say, my decision will stand, and I will do whatever I please." So our God said He's going to do, He has foretold what the future outcome will become. Because He is a God that tells the future from the beginning. And He has foretold these things that must take place, that we may know that He is God. And He tells us that His decisions will stand and will be carried out, and that He is going to do whatever He pleases. So, where are we at the crossroad of what our God is doing with us? A good question to ask is this: who are Israel's descendants? Who are Israel's descendants, the people that God is dealing with? Well, in the book of Hebrews, chapter 1, verse 1, it's written, "Long ago God spoke to our forefathers by means of the prophets on many occasions and in many ways." Yes, Israel's descendants, God spoke to our forefathers by means of the prophets on many occasions. Yahuwah, our God, spoke concerning what He is doing with us, the descendants of Israel, the people that He has chosen to serve Him, to bear His Spirit. Yes, He spoke to our forefathers, and He has expressed that His will is for us to do what? To serve Him as God. In the book of Amos, chapter 3, verse 1 to 3, there is written, "Say, hear this word that Yahuwah has spoken concerning you, O people of Israel, concerning the whole family that I brought out of the land of Egypt. Say, you alone I have known out of all the families on the earth. Say, that is why I will call you to account for your error. Say, we two walk together unless they have agreed to meet." So yes, God chose Israel, and God has been dealing with the descendants of Israel, the people that He brought out of bondage from Egypt. Say, you alone He has known, and that is why He said He will call us to account for our error. He is scattering us among the nations, and putting us into punishment is because he wants us to account for our error. And at the early beginning, we made a very big error. And that is, we left our God and and went to serve the gods of the nations. Even till today, many of us continue to follow the nations, to serve the gods given to us by the nations. And for this, Yahuwah God said he's going to punish us because of our error. So we two work together unless they have agreed. So he is dealing with us according to the agreement that our forefathers entered into with him, that if we should leave him to go and serve the gods of the nations, he in turn will abandon us and put us into punishment to bear the consequences of our error. So that is part of the agreement. So remember, we are trying to find out where are we at the crossroad of what our God is doing with us. Where are we at the crossroad? So because if we don't know where we started, we cannot find out where we are, and we cannot find out what the end will be. So, but we are finding out that yes, God spoke to our forefathers, and our forefathers entered into an agreement with God that we are to serve him alone as God. But Israel, our ancestors, made an error. They left the true God and went to serve the gods of the nations. And for this, our God put us, the descendants of Israel, into punishment by scattering us among the nations. And there we are bearing punishment for our error. And our God also stipulated how long we are to bear the punishment for our error. But we are trying to find out where are we at the crossroad of what our God is doing with us. So where are we on the crossroad of what our God has foretold that he's doing with us? Well, our God has foretold and he revealed the things he is doing with us. Yahuwah is God to Israel. Deuteronomy chapter 31 verse 16 to 18. There God foretold, Yahuwah foretold that Israel descendants will disobediently leave him as their God and will take on to serve the gods of the other nations. He also foretold that he will bring punishment on Israel's descendants for abandoning him. The book of Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 20, there is written, Yahuwah foretold that he in turn will abandon Israel to serve the punishment for our error. So he foretold in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 64, and in the book of Hosea chapter 6 verse 1 and 2, there is written, Israel will become as dead because God will abandon Israel to go and serve the gods of the other nations. So during this time, Israel will become a dead nation. The nation Israel will become non-existent. And that will be during the 2 days of punishment on Israel. Because Yahuwah will abandon Israel and go away. So the nation Israel will become a dead nation. scattered among the nations to serve the gods of the nations. But in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, verse 1 to 14, and in the book of Hosea, chapter 6, verse 2, Hosea chapter 13, verse 14, Yahuwah our God foretold that he will come to our aid in the last days of our punishment. Yes, he foretold that he will come to our aid in the last days of our 2 days punishment. He will come to help us out, to save us, to resurrect us as a people. So he will come to our aid in the last days and resurrect the descendants of Israel who search for him. Those of us who will recall who we are and start searching for our God. Yahuwah said he will resurrect us, those that search for him. In the book of Ezekiel, chapter 20, verse 36 to 38, and in the book of John, chapter 5, verse 25 to 29, it was foretold that there will be a separation of the good and the bad Israel descendants. Yes, Yahuwah said he will bring us out from among the nations. He will separate us as sheep and the goat. The sheep of the house of Israel are those who will return, who will wake up and seek to return to their God to serve him. But the goats will stubbornly keep going and following the nations. They don't want to return back to the pen. So there will be a separation as God resurrects or awakens the descendants of the house of Israel. A separation as to sheep and as to goats. Those who want to return to Yahuwah their God and serve him and seek to return to serve him. And those who will stubbornly continue to follow the nations to serve the gods of the nations. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 6, 65, verse 8 to 10, there it was written, Yahuwah foretold that he will salvage, he foretold salvation for the chosen ones of Israel descendants. So those who will awaken and seek to call and seek for their God and call upon his name, those ones will be salvaged from among the nations to return back to the kingdom of their God, to serve Yahuwah the true God. So these are the things God has foretold that will take place through the mouth of the prophets. And these things are the things taking place even to today. But we have to find out where are we on the crossroad so that we can know where our destination is. So, so where are we on the crossroad? Well, after the resurrection or the awakening of the descendants of Israel, Isaiah chapter 10, verse 21 to 23, there is written, Yahuwah foretold that there will be a destruction or extermination of the bad, unrepentant ones of the Israel descendants. Those who will be awakened but continue to follow the nations to serve their gods. There will be what? A destruction or extermination of such ones. Because the wages of sin or rebellion against God or abandoning our God is what? Is death. And that is what is written in the book of Daniel chapter 9 verse 27. Say, until the extermination. So there will be an extermination of all Israel descendants who continue to follow the nations to serve their gods, who continue unrepentant, and who refuse to return to seek for their God, to return to Him. That is what is written. In the book of Daniel chapter 8 verse 14 and Amos chapter 9 verse 11 to 14, it was foretold, Yahuwah foretold that there will be a restoration for the repentant chosen ones of the Israel descendants. So there will be a restoration of those who repent and turn to seek Yahuwah their God. Yahuwah promised to restore such ones to their homeland. He promised to restore such ones, to restore all things back to Zion. So those are the things that God has foretold that He is doing with the descendants of Israel, the people that He has chosen to serve Him, to bear His Spirit. So to answer the question, where are we at the crossroad of what our God is doing with us? Where are we at the crossroad of what our God is doing with us? Well, we are at the resurrection stage of the descendants of Israel, in all the corners of the earth where God scattered us. That is why you hear about the awakening. Because God said He's going to pour out His Spirit on the dry bones in the valley, which is the whole house of Israel. And there will be a resurrected or awakened as to who they are, the people of God. And those who awaken and seek to return to serve their God and repent and seek to return to serve their God, such ones will be salvaged back to Zion, their homeland, to serve Yahuwah at the appointed time. But those who stubbornly continue to follow the nation to serve the gods of the nations will also likewise do what? Be exterminated, as was foretold. So we are the resurrection stage, and soon it will be time for the what? For the final judgment. Soon it will be time for the final judgment. It was foretold in the book of Hosea chapter 1 verse 10, and there is written, and the number of the people of Israel will be like the grain of the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. That is during this time that God scattered us among the nations. We will multiply among the nations. So we will grow as the grain of the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. And in the place where it was said to them, the descendants of Israel, that you are not my people, it will be said to them, you are the sons of the living God. So, yes, we are scattered among the nations. You, the Negroes, are descendants of Israel. You are the people that God has been dealing with. And by the fruits, you can identify who you are. So, yes, awaken to who you are, and you will find out what your God has been doing with you. Seek to return to your God, to serve Him at the appointed time. Leave the gods of the nations alone. So, after the resurrection stage, will come the separation stage, then the judgment stage, and then the restoration stage. So these are the things our God has foretold that will take place. And these are things that has been taking place. So where are we at the crossroad of what our God is doing with us? We are at the resurrection stage, the awakening stage. That is why everybody is being awakened in all the corners of the earth where God has scattered us. But after that will come the what? The separation of the sheep and the goat. Those who want to return back to the pen to serve their God, and those who want to continue to follow, to live among the nations and to serve the gods of the nations. It's up to you to choose what you will be. Like it was written, choose you this day whom you will serve. Will you return to serving the God of Israel, Yahuwah, the God of Israel, or will you continue to follow the gods given to you by the nations? After the separation will come the final judgment, for the wages of sin is death. And all Israel descendants who continue to follow the nations, to serve the false gods of the nations, will pay the price, the final price, which is death, as was agreed by our forefathers. So that is where we are at the crossroad of what our God is doing with us. It's good that you know it. It's good that you be awakened to it so that you can decide what your final destination will be. Whether you will be among those who will return to serve Yahuwah at the appointed time, or you will be among those that will be exterminated at the final judgment. So, again, it's a pleasure to come to you to share this message, to bring this light of Zion to you, so that you can know what your God is doing with you, so that you can become wise as a wise and faithful slave and seek to serve your God and leave the gods of the nations alone. Until I come to you next time, remain blessed and keep seeking for Yahuwah your God, and keep seeking that you be among those that will be chosen to return to serve Yahuwah at the appointed time in Zion. Thank you. Please like and share this message with others. It is important because we are almost at the time of the end. Awaken those who are still sleeping and let them know of what God is doing with us. Comment, I want to know what you think. I want to hear your response to this message that you're hearing from the light of Zion. Okay, until I come to you next time, remain blessed.